So we've lost Tom.
Okay, I'll text him.
Okay, well, getting back to the approval of minutes, so I reviewed the minutes of the June 24th meeting. They seem appropriate to me, so I would move that we adopt the minutes of the June 24th meeting as distributed.
I would second that.
Second, is there any further discussion about that? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
I just texted him, so
Okay.
it's possible he went on another call.
All right. Let's see. So the next item on the agenda is executive session. Script here. So the commission will now be going into executive session to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation related to proposed action or current practice pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1 It is expected that the commission will be in executive session until, so do we need this for sure? I didn't think so, but I want.
I don't need it.
All right.
If anyone was doing it for me.
Okay. On second thought, we will not be in executive session. Let's see. Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The next item on the agenda are action items. The first item on their agenda is exam protest reviews. I thought I saw.
We don't have the person who filed the exam protest review on the call or in person. So can we move that down the agenda and
Sure.
I'll try to give him a call, or
Okay.
maybe Sarah can try to. No, you can't. Maybe you could try to give him a call.
Yeah.
And see if we can.
That's
Hi, Commissioner Applegate.
Oh, tell me about it.
If you can give him a call, we could talk to him on speaker.
Yeah, he keeps answering. He's like standing by.
Okay, well, let's try that right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You just want to try that other phone over there? Just put it.
I don't have Nancy's number. Come on.
Okay, if he called that number, that's it.
Oh. The meeting number?
No, I'm talking about that phone over there. Using that speakerphone.
Yeah.
I don't want to put his phone number on the
Speakerphone, just do it via phone if that's okay with you. Okay. Yeah, it's good. Put it with the speaker and just put my phone on the table. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to try to do this this exam protest review. So we have
Firefighter Garland.
Mr. Garland. We're going to try to do this with you on the phone and sort of us, some of us here in person and some people remote through our website. Is that all right with you?
Yes, thank you so much for accommodating. I apologize. I'm out of country and the internet service is just not doing very good for me right now. So thank you so much.
Sure. Okay. I had a couple of introductory comments about this. So based on the process that's described in our Public Safety Civil Service Rules of Practice Procedure 9.23, the Commission has authority to review protests from examinees relating to a promotional exam. The Commission, in its role in reviewing those decisions, historically has been given some deference to the subject matter experts who develop the exam, and those experts are members of the Exam Development Committee. In past discussions by the Commission about this process, especially I think the retreat we had in February, one of the topics discussed has been the standard of review for such exam protest reviews. The standard that the Commission had discussed, I think we all seem to be in agreement on this, was the clearly erroneous standard of review. And under that standard, a decision of the Exam Development Committee is clearly erroneous and may be reversed by the Commission when, although there is evidence to support the Exam Development Committee's decision, the commission, in considering all of the evidence, is left with the definite and firm conviction that a mistake has been committed. This standard gives deference to the expertise of the exam development committee, but allows the commission to revert that decision if it determines that based on a definite and firm conviction that the mistake has been made. So regarding the process for today's review, I suggest that we're going to kind of the order of proceedings is going to be as follows. First, we're going to hear from the appellant regarding the basis for their request for review and the remedy that they are seeking. I would like to ask Mr. Garland to maybe keep this to maybe 10 minutes. Next, then we would hear sort of a response from the exam development committee relating to their decision to deny the appellant's exam protest. Likewise, I'd like to ask that to maybe kept to 10 minutes. Then we will go back to Mr. Garland, maybe sort of essentially a rebuttal or his closing statement. Maybe if you could keep that to maybe about 5 minutes, and then the commission will discuss this and possibly make a decision today. One other thing I would point out, I think in the past we've allowed the commissioners to ask questions during both the appellant's presentation and the exam team's response to that. So I think we're gonna if any of the commissioners have questions, I'd like to allow them to do that during the process. So with that in mind, is there anyone or any of the commissioners have any sort of I guess questions about that process today?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Good enough. All right. So, Mr. Garland, why don't you tell us what it is you're appealing, the reason for that, and then the remedy that you're seeking.
Yeah, so there's a couple parts to this situation, and one of them is that we as candidates don't get to see what's how we're scored. So we never get to understand if we got a question right or wrong. So that places us at a disadvantage for future studying, for sure. And so, for example, in a fill-in-the-blank questionnaire test that we have, it's not going to fill in the blank because it's open-ended. It's just a long blank line, maybe 3 blank lines. And you have to just fill in that long blank space with, could be a short answer, could be a long answer. And it's hard for us to differentiate what exactly the test is asking of us. So my main appeal here today is to say that if we have the answer that is on the key in a written space, that it is accepted as the right answer. What it seems like can happen in this testing process is that you can write the correct answer word for word, letter by letter. If you wrote more than what was required, that it can be graded as well, which makes it very difficult for a candidate to know. I mean, you risk a lot when you write down your answer. And if you don't know exactly this says 2-word correct answer or a 4-character correct answer, then you can probably want to risk a lot to write as much as you possibly can in order to try to get it right. So my main concern here is, appeal for this test is that there's not a defined scope of an answer on this test, specifically the local knowledge. And so we don't know how to answer the question properly. We can answer the question specifically, have the exact answer that is on the answer sheet, but we can be grading it as a wrong answer if we add additional information. That seems to be the case. And again, I don't quite know because we don't get the feedback from these tests. They don't tell us how we scored. So what I'm asking for is to simply say, if a candidate wrote in the exact, answer sheet's answer, regardless of whatever additional information they wrote, that they be accepted as a right answer. And hopefully that's as clear and simple as I can be. I don't think I need to talk 10 minutes about it, but does that make sense to you all?
Sure. Now, are you concerned about a specific question on the test, or just sort of a general kind of concern about the testing sort of overall?
That is a two-part thing. I came to this understanding from question number 2.
Uh,
And question number 2, it asks for the light characteristics of a privately maintained light outside LA Bay Marina. I wrote the exact answer that's on the key, but I also wrote a little bit more that might not have been accurate. I can't honestly tell you because I don't remember what I wrote, but I know I wrote more. And so I asked, you know, can you, in my process period, will you accept it if it has more information than just the correct answer? And from my understanding, it's clearly a no. They can judge you on anything extra that you wrote. And so then that makes me question the whole test entirely. So, you know, if they can judge us, we can score on information that's not even on the answer key on any of those questions. It's very likely that a lot of us got a ton of those questions wrong, even if we wrote the exact right words from the answer key. So yes, it's question number 2. It's also just the whole writing of the test itself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for Mr. Garland at this point?
I do not, thank you.
All right. Good enough. Thank you again, Mr. Garland. So now we'd like to hear from the Exam Development Committee, their response to his concerns.
Hi, this is Yoshiko Grace Matsui. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Why don't I do a couple of bits of introduction? I can see there are members of the development committee in the room as well with you, but we do have a response. Thank you very much for meeting with us this morning. We wanted to address a couple of components in Firefighter Garland's comments. One is this test has 3 components, to be very clear. It's the written exam for the fireboat pilot promotional examination that we're discussing, and the written exam by itself has 3 different components. One is a multiple choice formatted test that has about 150 questions on it. One is a fill in the blank chart for a local knowledge assessment on one of the charts that are assigned on the bibliography. And the third component is a charting exercise where you're giving a series of instructions to show your proficiency in charting actually out on a nautical chart. Those are all done at the same time during one day. So the importance of this really goes back to what we believe is critical knowledge, skills, and abilities that fireboat pilots must demonstrate the day that they are promoted. There is no formal curriculum-based like test that is a training component. They have a workbook that they use within the department that takes several years to become proficient in. But unlike the private industry where you would take a U.S. Coast Guard test in order to become a pilot at this level, we have a combination of ways to assess that somebody is ready to take this on. But after that, you are it. You are the pilot who's responsible for the safe operation of a $13 million vessel that's over 100 feet long and 300 tons. So candidates have to demonstrate that they are ready to take that step through a series of methodologies. The fill in the blank on the chart is kind of equivalent to knowing your district. So the chart is of the Elliott Bay, Puget Sound area. That's the one that we used for this particular exercise. And it is part of the response area of the fireboat. So if you were to get a call that says a vessel is on fire, taking on water in Elliott Bay Marina, this is part of where you would need to respond, or in Elliott Bay generally, you would need to respond. And there is no computerized dispatch that tells you where the location is, because the computer assisted dispatch that the fire department uses is for land. It's not, it'll give you an address, but of course you can't get to an address on the boat on a street. I'm going to pause there for a second and also introduce, I believe, Luke Carpenter. I can see his footwear is there with us, and I believe I saw Pilot Bachetti with us as well. So I would love for them to comment a little bit about why we use a fill-in-the-blank chart. Luke?
Yeah, and you all can come up and sit here with us if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, we weren't sure.
Yeah,
You want,
fine.
but there you go, the hot seat.
Maybe, yeah, you're in the hot seat.
So,
I apologize. I just picked up a run, so I'll be back as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That'll be fun, yeah.
Question. So, as Yoshiko mentioned, pilotage for the waters of Puget Sound and other areas is at the federal level is administered by the Coast Guard. And the exam that the Seattle Fire Department pilots get is sort of modeled after that. Instead of, and I have federal pilotage for the waters of Puget Sound. Those exams, they were similar to an exam given several years ago here, where they give you an outline of the coast, and you are required to fill in all the lights, all the aids, navigation, depths of water, obstructions, everything. You get a blank piece of paper, you have to make a chart out. It's a very challenging exam, and it's graded like 90%. So it's the purpose of these exams is to and why we choose fill in the blank over multiple choice is it definitively measures a candidate's knowledge. In a multiple choice exam, you have a 1 in 4 chance, 25% chance of getting it right. In navigating on the water, you can't do that. You have to know where you are. You have to know the obstructions and the obstacles in your path, and you have to know it without the use of secondary aids to navigation. It's just as Yoshiko mentioned, it's knowing your district. And that's why the fill in the blank test, although it's harder, it's a definitive measurement of a candidate's knowledge.
And Mr. Carpenter, I know that I know that Yoshiko introduced you, but can you tell us what your role here is and your expertise, your background?
Sure. My role here is as part of the exam development committee, the author of the practical exams, both the 2 chart problems as well as the upcoming on-water practical exams, working with the pilots to develop those exams. I've done it for about 16 years for the city, also do the engineers exams. My personal background, I graduated from the Massachusetts Maritime Academy as a third mate of unlimited tonnage upon oceans, Bachelor of Science in Marine Transportation, and a commission in the Naval Reserve. I sailed continuously for 13 years, the last 3 of which I sailed as master on ships of 80,000 tons. Decided to come home and skipping a couple of chapters, joined the Seattle Fire Department in 1993, was assigned to the Marine Response Unit over in West Seattle in 36. Spent my entire 10 years there with the exception of 2 years as an acting lieutenant on a fireboat. I left there to take an assistant chief's job on Bainbridge Island, where I stayed for another 15 years, and currently retired working for this, and I teach firefighting at the State Fire Academy.
Did you have any more that you wanted to add?
No, other than cover this.
I'll go ahead and pick up. So to this specific question, and I want to also kind of detail out that the local knowledge fill in the blank portion, I think accounted for, what was it, 23 questions, Luke?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and it's somewhere around 23 questions of that total exam that we administered back on July 8th. I also want to say that all the candidates who were in the room with several exam staff, and if anyone had any question at any time about what they were being asked, they could have asked for any sort of clarification at the moment to say, I don't understand this question, or what do you believe is the boundary of this question, or can you explain what this question is asking? We would do that in person had we been asked. I would have been happy to explain that we were looking for a light characteristic. So the committee received about 8 protests on basically two of the components. Many of them were on the local knowledge, and a couple were on the, or no, just one, I think, was on the multiple choice. We approved, I believe, like 6 of them were approved, and 2 of them were denied. And so this is question 2 on the local knowledge was one of the ones that we denied. One of the issues that I believe the committee was strongly committed to, and applying this as a solution consistently with all of the questions on the local knowledge chart exercise, was we would accept correct answers of a light characteristic if all of the information written on that line was correct. And I also want to describe that when you come into our offices during the protest period, you are allowed to see a blank copy of the test and the keyed answer of the test. Now, you're not allowed to see your own materials. So Firefighter Garland is right. You can't compare your answers to what the keyed answers are, but hopefully you remember what you wrote and you're able to look at what the keyed answer is right there during the protest period. So for the protest period, the committee was extremely committed and really coalesced around, we will only accept answers as they appear on the answer key, unless someone wrote a protest and said, I would like you to consider something different. The issue with the self-reported data or answer that Firefighter Garland wrote on his test is that part of it was correct and part of it was incorrect. And we would, to be consistent, did not accept any answers or any protests that said, please accept a response that turned out to be incorrect. But I do want to address the overall concern of like, yes, this test is very difficult. We believe that it's necessary to have this level of difficulty to show the proficiency to take on this role. And as Luke stated, it's patterned very closely after the Coast Guard test, but it's actually not as hard as the Coast Guard test either. So if you were going to take on this in the private sector, you would have to pass a far harder test. So that is the decision that we made. Now, I think this is a little thorny from my perspective because I don't believe that the protest period is meant to debate what I put down as my answer and whether I should get credit for the thing that I wrote down. It really is about the scope of the test, the content, whether the content is right or wrong, and the practicality, and not about individual performance. It's more of a systemic view. Let's see. I was hoping we get the chart out so we could explain a little bit about what the candidates saw. And do you have the rolled chart?
We do. Do commissioners want to talk about that? Want to take a look at the chart, or do you feel like you
No, I don't think we need to.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add, Luke?
No, unless you have any questions.
I had maybe one question. So on this light characteristic, sort of, I guess the way they're sort of described. So the concern was that this one light characteristic. So that was an FLR10S. All right, and so Mr. Garland thinks that, not quite certain, but he thinks what he wrote was that it was an FLR10S1. Is there such a thing as an FLR10S1?
No. Do you have a copy of the light list? The single page?
We have a copy
Yeah.
of, we've,
There's a couple of things to go after too, like light characteristic describes, let's say, it's a light. So.
Yeah, there's
Hold on real quick, if you guys.
FLR10S.
FLR10S is the light.
there should be that one page, yes,
Okay,
of the light list. Mm-hmm.
So, if I may.
sure. I think so. I think we have.
So, do you have that?
Yeah.
yeah, they do, yeah.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, you did the wrong page of the light list. The light list is broken down into characteristics, the heading characteristics, the page heading characteristics, and then construction and numbering. So it says here, Elliott Bay West Entrance Light 1, we'll just take the one, or the one below it, Elliott Bay Marina West Entrance Light 2, that's the light in question. Flashing red, 10 seconds, that's what the 10S is, 10 seconds, so it flashes a red light every 2 seconds. That is the light characteristic. The heading up here, other parts of it here, so it says a private aid. Unfortunately, that's the only kind of light list we have. But things like its luminous range, which might be 10 miles, 5 miles, that's in a separate heading, and its height above the water, which whatever that is another heading. So there would be other columns in here that would describe the other portions of the light that you know, its range, its height, things like that. But the light list heading above right here is characteristic.
Okay, so again, and there was also some information here about sort of the nomenclature that there is something, for instance, the FLR 10S1 would have a, let's see, I think it's an odd number, it would have a green light versus if it was if there was, sorry, the FLR 10S2, which does exist, that has, because it's an even number, that has a red light.
So red and green are the general navigation lights, and there are other colors as well. But red lights are always one set of numbers, green lights are always the other set of numbers. So red is even, green is odd. So every red light will be 2468. Every green light will be 1357. Whatever. And so there you have it right there. So in the appellant's description, where he's written FLR 10S1, the correct description of that light is 2, right?
And it cannot be 1.
No,
And may I,
the one
here just 1 second,
the light.
if that's okay?
Sure, just a second, Mr. Rowland. We're going to come back to you. I want to get done with the development committee's presentation. Then we'll come back to you.
So if you look right below it, you'll see the flashing green light, 10 seconds, and it's a 1 because it's a green light. And that light is actually inside the brain.
Okay, good enough. Commissioner Goldman, did you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
So now, Mr. Grow, let's go back to you, and so this is your opportunity to sort of respond to that, and then to wrap up and again tell us what remedy you're asking for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk this through. I'm not negating anything that Mr. Carpenter or Yoshiko are saying at all. The one point that I'm saying is that, yeah, I got that extra thing wrong, but in a practical setting and in the test, what they deemed necessary to write the answer for that test, I got right specifically from the test key. So I don't understand why we as candidates, any of us candidates, can be judged for excess knowledge that they didn't even ask for. That's my main appeal here, is that, I mean, how can that be the case? I mean, we can get every single question wrong if we don't actually know the scope of what they're asking. Because it's not a fill in the blank questionnaire. This is a fill in a very long blank space. It's not a defined amount of information they're asking for. So that's all. It's very simple for me. In this specific question, I am getting graded on something I wrote that they weren't even asking for, and I made marks wrong. That means every single candidate who takes this test, and that can happen to every single one. And so that's just my argument. And if you guys don't deem that to be, necessary, I understand. I just feel the need to stand up and say, we're being graded on information that they're not even asking for.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Mr. Garland.
Thank you for hearing my appeal. I appreciate it.
Very much appreciate you appearing for us today and raising this issue. Okay, so now I think the commission wants to, I'm prepared to sort of talk about this and make a decision. Is that all right with you, Commissioner Hall?
That's fine. Thank
Great.
you.
Okay. I'm sorry that Commissioner Halligan had to go. All right, Commissioner Knoll, do you have what sort of kind of analysis about this do you have?
Yeah, I would say, and this is Commissioner Knoll, I've read the materials closely, listened to what was presented. In terms of the review itself, I can certainly appreciate why the request for review was brought to us. I can imagine, given the difficulty and stress of the exam, having the same questions and curiosities. That said, I would side with the development committee in terms of the information they provided, that they are going to consider everything written in the blank. And even if the first section is correct, if it's followed by incorrect information, that essentially invalidates the correct portion of the answer. That conclusion and recommendation doesn't surprise me. It's logical and it seems standard for exams, and all test takers were subject to that same standard. And all test takers are taking the same exam. So while I appreciate the difficulty of it, and I can't even imagine studying for and taking an exam with this technical difficulty level, the fact that it's standard to all test takers alleviates any concern of bias, injustice, et cetera. It's difficult, it's that difficult by design, and it's meant to be.
Thank you. I think I likewise agree with you that it was the same exam given to everybody. I think my concern is sort of if that kind of additional information, it seems to me that makes the answer wrong. And it sort of raises the concern about confusion, because again, if any sort of light description of that, if it ends in an even, again, looking at my note, if it ends in an even number, the light has to be red. If it ends in an odd number, the light would have to be green. That sort of raises the concern that about confusion, because there is another light evaluation sort of nearby that was a one. And so I guess I can certainly appreciate the exam developments committee's concern about that. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm not convinced that decision is clearly erroneous. So I would think we should, I believe we should uphold the exam development committee's decision.
May I read the remedy requested as written by firefighter Garland? Okay, so the remedy that firefighter Garland wrote in his materials was, I request that any candidate's written answer that reflects the keyed answer be accepted as a correct answer, no matter what additional information a candidate may have written. I request this for every question on the test.
Okay, so I'm going to move that we deny the appeal and affirm the decision of the exam development committee.
I second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. So that will be the decision of the commission. So again, thank you very much, Mr. Brother. We very much appreciate you coming before us today and talking about this.
Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my appeal. I appreciate it and value you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here. The next item on the agenda is the police entry exam vendor due diligence report. So, Ms. Hughley, do you want to sort of talk about that a little bit?
I would, if here's that form. Thank you, Chair Green. Last month, PSCSC Commission staff shared our police officer exam due diligence report with you and with our stakeholders, including the police department, members of the city council, the mayor's office, and it was for us pretty widely reported in the media. It's also available on our website. The original request back from January 2024 was for the PSCSC to consider adding or switching to a different police officer civil service exam. We conducted a due diligence process for 5 months, digging into facts and data about these 2 exams. The dimensions that are important for police officers to possess in the city of Seattle in light of the consent decree, the 2017 Police Accountability Ordinance, the SPD Police Manual, and state and local laws, as well as the Public Safety Civil Service Commission rules. The report's key findings were 1, that the second company, PST, declined to participate in the due diligence process, and both PST and the test developer, Industrial Organizational Systems, requested not to be considered as a vendor for the Seattle police officer exam, at least not at this time. Second finding was that the likely outcome of a validation process of the PST exam would result in a recommendation from the company to develop a new and different exam and not to be able to use PST's current exam that they use for police officer and corrections officer.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
I had thought we were not going to address this with that.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I just
Thank you,
got
Commissioner.
to.
You know what?
And I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
on
I'm-
the roll.
I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. So we discussed that we would not take up a vote until, or even consideration, sorry, on this issue, if Commissioner Applegate was not available, and I see that he is not. How would you like to proceed?
Why don't we take this over to maybe next month?
Or even to the end of the agenda. You see,
Okay,
Well,
sure.
he comes back or is he gone?
He said he might come back, but yeah. it's-
Maybe we pause it.
You can come back to it.
Yeah, all right. Let's just postpone that for a moment. So the next item on the agenda is the executive director budget and departmental updates.
Thank you. And I see, thank you so much. We do have Sarah Lee and Alan McKenzie on the call, so I'm getting to your item. Our budget update is available on page 44 of your materials. We are doing just fine. Oh, it does not have all of the, information on it. We'll work on that. But I can tell you that you can compare the adopted budget for 2024 versus what we've spent year to date. No, you can't. You can't see the total we've spent year to date. In any case, I know because I reviewed the original version, I can represent to you that we are at 55% of our total budget for 2024. We're well within projected spending, and I anticipate either underspend or being right on the money for the end of this year. Budget discussions for the 2025-2026 biennium budget continue. They are deliberative and confidential, and so I cannot discuss them in an open public meeting, but if any commissioners would like to talk to me ahead of any final decisions by the mayor's office, feel free to contact me outside of this meeting. But we continue to work on those and respond to requests from both the mayor's office and the budget office, and anticipate any, we'll respond to the city council when it gets to their phase as well. Department update. Thank you for being so patient, Ms. Lee and Mr. McKenzie. I did ask representatives from both departments. Director Lee is a regular attendee at our meetings, and I so appreciate that. And welcome, Mr. McKenzie. Would both of you be willing to come on and report the data that the commission has requested? We'll start with the fire department if you're there, Director Lee. It looks like you're trying to do something. Okay. Mr. McKenzie, are you available and able to come on and talk with us about the Seattle Police Department?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me all?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I've been requested to report some data, separations year to date, hires year to date, the authorized budget pockets, and the current staffing number. Separations year to date is 78. Hires year to date is 25. The authorized budget pockets is 1,277. Current staffing number 1,034. That doesn't include recruits who are in the academy. That's just fully sworn.
Do you have any information on how many officers have essentially been poached by other agencies?
I do not. I could look for that information if it exists. Don't know if we're tracking that or not, but I think we do some amount of trying to figure out where folks are going. I mean, we've had a lot of retirees, of course, and that kind of thing, but I will look for that information, and if I can find it, either way, I'll report to you next month. How does that sound?
And sort of on the flip side of that, do we have information about how many officers we have been able to poach from other agencies?
We'll look for that too. I don't have that
Okay.
information. at my
Lateral
fingertips.
hires, that's the
Yeah.
name of it.
Lateral hires, yes. That's a,
Okay.
okay,
Mr.
I'll look for that.
McKenzie, thank you so much for being here. Can you just tell us what is your role at Seattle Police Department?
So I'm in the HR department. My title is Employment Services Advisor. Really, I do a lot of things. I'm involved in the officer discipline process pretty deeply. Do a little bit to help out the EEO investigator. Really, tasks as assigned by Mike Fields, the HR director, I would say is my main role.
We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing you at other meetings. Always feel free to get in touch with me if you have questions or you'd like to learn more about public safety civil service.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity.
All right, and I see Dory Towler has got her hand up. Dory, would you like to come on and introduce yourself and speak with us?
Yeah, hi, Dory Towler, Seattle Fire Human Resources. I have the fire department's data for today. We have had 68 separations year to date, 39 hires in February. We've got a recruit class lined up to start in August as well. And then this is the uniform budgeted pocket count, 1,108. And our current uniform staffing is 973. And I'm aware of one person who resigned to take a paramedic position in a different department, but it's not something we typically track at fire.
Thank you so much, Dory.
Thank you.
I can give a little bit more of an update.
Sure.
Okay, well, a great deal of our work is related in the last, couple of years, and that's to the Seattle Police Department. I'm actually I would like to start, we started actually at the last meeting sharing some data about the entry hiring process. So give me a second and I will get that up to share with you. And I'm going to ask Adelaide Alderks to speak to it. That is the wrong data, forgive me. Adelaide, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi all, my name is Adelaide Alderks. I'm a fire and police exams analyst with SHR Fire and Police Exams Unit. Happy to be here today.
Welcome.
All right. Adelaide, I have this slide and this one. Why don't we start here? Does that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're both kind of interconnected, so we can kind of focus on either. But yeah, I would say, overall, super high level, our police officer applicant trends have been really encouraging over the past few months. This data that we're looking at right here was pulled about a week ago on the 18th of July. So we're currently averaging about 16.2 entry-level applicants per day. And to put that number in context, about this time last year, we were averaging 6.2 applicants per day. So definitely a really significant bump. since where we're at last year and where we're at even in 2022. And then another thing I wanted to point out with this slide here is that we have reached, and actually by today we've surpassed 2,000 applicants for the year so far in 2024, and it's just July. And I would say, to put that in context, in 2022 and in 2023, we received less than 2,000 applicants for the entire year. So really cool that we're already surpassing our yearly totals for the past 2 years, just so far by July. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, this graph kind of visualizes that, increase in applications per day. So you can look at, the 2024 dot. So the dot all the way to the right is reflecting where we are now. And so that is data from cycle 5. And if you compare it to cycle 5 from 2023 and cycle 5 from 2022, you can see that there has been a really significant increase. Yeah, and I think, what I would add to that, just, in addition to the data there, is that we've also kind of seen this translate into a much larger eligibility lists, or registers of candidates who completed the exam. So our last entry-level eligibility list included over 200 candidates, and we have not seen a list that large since 2019. And then also our last lateral eligibility list had 5 candidates, which might not sound like a lot, but we haven't seen a list that large for laterals since before the pandemic either. So yeah, it seems like we are with regards to applicant and test taker metrics, kind of rebounding to, if not exceeding, where we were pre-2020. So we're kind of hoping that over time that will translate to increased hires for the police department.
Thank you, Adelaide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are really pleased. We expect that our stakeholders are too, with the number of applications. The credit for this, has definitely been a humongous team effort between probably people I'm not even aware of, but the mayor's office, Seattle Police Department, their recruiting team, Seattle Human Resources, and the Public Safety Service Commission. So I just want to thank everybody for this really exciting trend that we're seeing.
Okay, next item on the agenda, the announcement of the 43rd Annual Civil Service Conference is in October. I know I saw I think one day of that last year, and I thought it was very interesting. A great thing.
Yeah. Anyone who hasn't been should consider attending. It's October 1st and 2nd. It's free. You just have to email the contact information in the packet at the law firm Foster Garvey, and we always attend. It's a good time. It's also, I think it's remote again this year, so it's really easy. I think typically the first day is sort of the civil service basics, and but I haven't seen the agenda yet. We'll be sure to send that around when we get it.
I'll be curious to what they provide CLE credit for. This doesn't speak to that, which I'm surprised about. Last year, some of the material had CLE credit, some did not. So
yeah, well, when we get that information, we'll be sure to share that out too.
That would be great.
Sure.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the case status report and update.
Wonderful. That is available at page 46 of your packet. All right, so we had an appeal, a disciplinary appeal filed May 21st. So I believe I did possibly report out on this. Oh yes, and we included the materials in the packet. Former Officer Burton Hill is appealing his discharge from the Seattle Police Department. We did recently hear from him, and the commission he wants to proceed with the commission to hear his appeal. So we're scheduling a pre-hearing conference, and we'll be talking to commissioners about their availability in the next few months. Oh, we'll talk to you soon about your availability in the next few months for Mr. Hill's appeal versus SPD.
Okay. The next item on the agenda are the fire and police exam unit updates. I see Ms. Sade is on our call. Shelley, do you want to give your report on the police exams?
Absolutely. Yes, thank you so much. Adelaide just covered a really good synopsis of what we have going on for entry level and lateral entry police officer. So as she stated, for the exam cycle that concluded on July 2nd, we had over 200 the names of 200 individuals who successfully passed the exam, sent over to SPD to start the background investigation process. And then on July 13th or thereabouts, after we had a lateral entry oral board process, we had 9 individuals who were scheduled to were needing to reschedule. They had conflicts and were unable to participate in interviews that day. So we'll be rescheduling them very soon for interviews very soon. We had 7 individuals who participated and 5 of them passed their oral board, and their names were also given to SPD to start the pre-employment backgrounding investigation process. So as Adelaide said, that's a large jump in numbers. For quite some time, we had 2 individuals, 1 individual that were moving on to the oral board process. So we're making progress, and that's very exciting. With regard to the sergeant's exam process, as the culmination of the 2024 police sergeant's exam process, we published the new eligibility register for promotions to the rank of sergeant. There were 31 names on that list of individuals, and this list will be used for the purpose of promotions to the rank of sergeant until July 13th, 2026. Subsequent to posting that register, we sent out to candidates a statistical summary of all of their exam scores, so such that they could have the opportunity to see how their scores were tabulated, how their final scores were arrived at. We also this week sent out an email to all candidates who participated in the assessment exercises to have the opportunity to schedule an appointment to come in and review their recorded interviews alongside the criteria that was used to score those interviews. And we strongly encourage candidates to avail themselves of this opportunity because it's educational, it's potentially helpful to them as they navigate future interview processes, both inside and outside the promotional exam process. So we just put the invitation for this opportunity out a couple of days ago, and I already have 8 officers who've signed up to participate. So we're pretty happy about that. It's a great opportunity for them. With regard to our 2025 police lieutenant and police captain interviews, we're currently putting together our development committees to start our work for those exams, and we'll be off and running here in another week or so. And that's really all I have, unless you have any questions.
No, again, thank you very much. Yoshiko Matsui, do we have any report on the fire department exams?
Hey, Michelle, are you going to do the fire report? Does anyone know if Rachel, who's going to do the report for fire?
Yoshiko did not mention that to me, so I don't know. And she did text me that she had to leave and leave the call here, so I don't know. I do know that there's work that's progressing on getting ready for the fighter exam that will start this fall. Regular meetings are being held for logistics planning and, accomplishing that test. She's also working at development committee for fire lieutenant, which is the 2025 promotional exam that she'll be administering. So those are the things that I know she has in progress. Adelaide, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I don't think so. We've got kind of, well underway with planning the firefighter exam, which is, going to be a very big kind of pull coming up, in the fall of this year and then in the kind of winter of next year. But yeah, we're kind of chugging along with that. We're planning the multiple elements, from the written exam to the oral board components, and working on assembling our exam development committee for the oral board, as well as, identifying who will be our committee chairs and, partnering with SFD with all that.
I believe that the fireboat pilot practical exam will be in September. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Sorry, I left that out. The second week in September will be the second half of the fireboat pilot exam process. That's the practical exam, which will be held at Station 5 the second week of September.
Thank you so much.
Great. All right, well, that concludes that item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is any old and new business. I don't think there's any. I guess this look like Commissioner Applegate is going to be back, so I suppose we're going to have to postpone the police safe trade level exam vendor due diligence report to next month.
That's fine.
Okay.
And on that note, I can attend that, but not in person.
Okay. I don't think I have any exam process reviews at that month.
Okay.
So that sounds great.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty. So I think that's everything on the agenda. I would move that we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. So we stand adjourned at 11:11. Thank you all very much.